road tax, or VED to give it its correct name, Vehicle Excise Duty. Well, that is about to get massively shaken up come April next year. That's April 2025. So, whether you're going to be driving a V8 or a sensible diesel or even a zero emission EV, no one's getting away with it this time. We're all going to be hit by rises. That's almost inevitable. But don't worry, I will explain exactly what the rates are, how much they're going up by, who they're going to impact, and how. All of that in this video. And I'll even tell you how you could legally drive around without having to pay tax at all. I'll do that at the end of this video. But let's start by getting into how the tax is going to change and how it's going to impact you come April 2025. And I'll do that right after this.
A brown car guy. Brown car guy.
So first of all, let's look at new cars and let's look at first year tax. Now, when it comes to buying a new car, the first year of Vehicle Excise Duty, VED, known as the showroom tax, is calculated based on your car's CO2 emissions per kilometer, so grams per kilometer. And this system is obviously designed to discourage people from buying cars that pollute more. And they are basically ramping up on that. They're going to increase that quite a bit. And I'll break that down for you so you can see how it's done. So how is it actually calculated? Well, it uses a sliding scale of CO2 emissions. The more CO2 your car emits, the higher tax you'll pay. And here is the scale. I'll put it on the screen as well. Here's the scale for April 2025. And the 0 grams per kilometer CO2 that you can see, that's obviously electric cars. So only electric cars would do 0 grams per kilometer. But there is going to be £10 on those. The 1 to 50 gram, that's generally plug-in hybrids. That's £110. 51 to 75 gram per kilometer, £130. 76 to 90 gram per kilometer, £185. 91 to 100 grams per kilometer, £225. 101 to 110 grams per kilometer, that is £260. 111 to 130 grams per kilometer is £310. 131 to 150 grams per kilometer, £405. 151 to 170 grams per kilometer, £1,000. Yes, you heard that right. That was a jump of more than double from the previous segment. £405 up to £1,000. Gets worse from here on. 171 grams to 190 grams per kilometer, £1,630. 191 grams per kilometer to 225 grams per kilometer, £2,240. 226 to 255 grams per kilometer, and we're talking £3,220, and anything above 255 grams per kilometer, and you're looking at £5,490 as your first year VED. That is extraordinarily massive. And if you're thinking about, well, who does that actually affect? I mean, take for example, high-end cars. The Ford Mustang, I believe, falls into that category. I mean, the current, just to put it into context, currently that was £2,745. That's what it was. And now it's £5,490. And like I said, we're talking Ford Mustang, we're talking Range Rover 5-litre V8, we're talking Mercedes-AMG G63, we're talking a Lamborghini Urus. So we're talking really high-end cars. I mean, obviously, we're talking up to 295 grams per kilometer for the Range Rover, up to 325 grams per kilometer for the Lamborghini. And this is definitely the idea here, obviously, is to stop people, from buying those cars that produce the most emissions. The mid-range section of cars, we're talking 151 to 255 grams per kilometer. These could be cars such as the BMW X5, X-Drive 4-litre, that's 190 gram. So that goes from £1,420 currently to £2,240 next year. A Toyota Land Cruiser 2.8 diesel, that goes, so it's about 230 grams per kilometer. That goes from £1,720 today to £3,220 next year. And even something like an Audi 3-litre TDI with 200 grams per kilometer, you're looking at £2,240 in its first year. And of course, if you think about a lot of large family SUVs, they're also going to fall into this sector. You're looking at everyday cars, you're talking about maybe 76 to 150 grams per kilometer. Typically, a lot of cars will fall into that category. So you think that hopefully, those people won't be hit too hard. But, you're looking at something like maybe a Golf 1.5 TSI. That's about 129 grams per kilometer. That's going to rise from 290 pounds up to 230 pounds, 230 pounds currently, rising to 305 pounds next year. And even take something like the Toyota Yaris Hybrid. The Toyota Yaris Hybrid, just 92 grams per kilometer, right? That also jumps from 120 pounds to 185 pounds next year. I mean, again, that may not sound like much. I mean, you're talking about 65 pounds there. But actually, for a lot of people, that's quite a significant chunk of money. You're talking about the low emitting cars, the lowest ones that fall into that category from 1 up to 75 grams per kilometer. These are generally hybrids, plug-in hybrids, and smaller engine cars. Even here, you are seeing a little bit of an increase, but it is thankfully still relatively low. The Toyota Prius plug-in hybrid, that'll go 110 pounds. Now you may think, well, that's quite reasonable, but actually it's gone up from 10 pounds. So it's gone from 10 pounds up to 110 pounds. So anything that was before it was 10 pounds, before EVs was 0, and anything with low emission was 10 pounds, they've gone up to 110 pounds, and EVs have now gone up to 10 pounds. Even the 330e BMW plug-in hybrid, 36 grams only, that goes from 15 pounds to 110 pounds. But I tell you what, that's not a bad choice, that actually, for the money. That's very little tax for what is quite a nice car. So that's what's happening now. Again, let's look a little bit more at electric cars. And, like I said, they're in for a shock too. And that's not just from plugging it in. The shock is from the fact that, they are going to be hit with tax, because previously they've got away with it. They've had a golden ticket, but not from April 2025. From that time, they will now pay £10 in the first year. It sounds symbolic, but that's exactly what it is. And after that, they will pay a regular rate of £195 annually. So that will be their road tax after the first year. So the incentive there is for them to buy it, but from the year 2, they'll be like, oh yeah, you're going to pay tax like everybody else. For those who've already got an EV, they will also join that flat rate system, and they will pay £195 annually, just like internal combustion engine cars. So if you were driving an electric car thinking, oh, I don't have to pay tax, now you do. So it's a weird thing, isn't it? Because on the one hand, they're penalizing the high-end emitting cars to try and get us to drive cleaner cars, and at the lower end, the real clean cars, they are hitting them with a tax as well. And it's weird because now that the EV adoption was happening, and it's kind of like slowed down a little bit. So right now there needs to be sort of more incentivization to get people to move across to EVs, and at this time you're actually putting tax on them. So that's it just seems counterintuitive, but that's what's happening. Hey, are you enjoying this video? Then make sure you hit the like button. It's very important. Plus, comment, share, and make sure you're subscribing. Okay, so let's now move into our second part of this video, section 2, if you like. And these are not brand new cars. These are cars that you already own. This depends on when your car was first registered and its emissions and its engine size. So, post-April 2017 cars. Post-April 2017 cars. These cars fall into a flat rate system after the first year. Petrol and diesel cars, they currently pay £165, and this goes up to £195 from April 2025. Hybrids go from £155 to £185. Electric cars, like I said, they will also now pay £195, previously £0. If your car was registered after April 2017, that's how that works. Pre-2017, so cars that were registered before April 2017, the tax is still based on emissions, and it kind of works like this. Up to 120 grams, the increase is from £30 to £35 annually, so actually quite small. From 121 to 150 grams per kilometre, it goes from £130 to £145. From 151 grams per kilometre to 225 grams per kilometre, you're seeing a bigger jump. That's from 240 to 270. Above that 225, you're looking at £675 currently, rising to £750 annually. So again, the increments there are smaller, but they are there and they are significant. For older cars, we're talking pre-2001 models, and actually this is where it impacts people like myself as well, because I drive a modern classic. So if you've got an older car or a modern classic that is not yet historic, and I'll come back to that later on, then this is how it's going to impact you. And this was basically based on engine size, not on emissions. So up to 1.5 litres. So if your car is 1.5 or lower, the tax goes from £210 to £220. If the car is bigger, if the engine is bigger than 1.5 litres, so that goes from £345 to £360. So my 1989 BMW 325i with its glorious 2.5 litre six-cylinder straight six engine, that will cost me an extra £15, and now it's £360 a year. Hi guys, I've been writing. This is my first book, a novel, an all-out action thriller, and this one is a collection of 13 stories I've written over the course of 2 decades. The Ulysses Files and The Quantum Races by BC Guy are out now on Amazon.com. So now we get to the bit where how you can evade this system. And basically, it's cars. There are actually 3 categories, and actually, let me do this in reverse order. So in the order that I wrote it, let me do it in the other way around. So electric mopeds and bikes, they are fully exempt from any sort of VED or road tax. Electric mopeds and bikes, they are exempt from VED. Disabled drivers, if you're eligible for the disabled exemption, again, you pay nothing. Now for car drivers, here is the trick. Basically, vehicles that are pre-1984, so 40 years old. So it's 40 years old on a running cycle. So every year it goes back. So for 2025, anything older than 1984, up to 1984, will be a historic vehicle. Double check that, because when you have to register them online as historic, and sometimes it's literally down to when they were registered and stuff like that, and sometimes it goes into the following year. It's complicated, but it may not, just because you have a 1984 car, it may not automatically be historic. So you just need to go online and check and see if you can actually register it as a historic car. If you are lucky enough to be able to do that, then you're fine. 40 years older, you don't have to pay road tax on it. You don't even have to get an MOT, in fact. And if your car is just, like I said, if your car is on the cusp or is about to be, or hasn't quite met the criteria, you could just take it off the road for a bit and wait for a bit and put it out there, and then you'll be driving it for, well, not for free, but in terms of tax, you will be driving it for free. So anyway, I hope that this has given you some indication and some insight of exactly what is happening to VED road tax next year. And hopefully you'll be able to understand where your car falls into this and how much more you'll be paying. Any questions or anything else, leave them in the comments, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Shout out time, guys. Thank you so much. Hey, if you enjoy my content, why not get involved? Buy me a coffee. You can do that at either of these links. Or if you're watching on YouTube, buy me a thanks or take out a membership. It all helps. It really does.